Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight to chat about how to write a signature scholarship essay. My name is Katie Keith Hunter. I am the Director of Traditional Admissions here at beautiful Bay Path University. And I am so happy to be joined tonight by Dr. Courtney Weber, Associate Professor of Rhetoric and Composition here at Bay Path. Hello, Dr. Weber.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We really are looking forward to it. And for all of you who've joined us tonight, we're thrilled that you have decided to consider participating in the Signature Scholarship Competition, which is a wonderful opportunity for us to get to know you a little bit better, for you to provide some information to BayPath, and to potentially win some scholarship money. So this evening, we encourage you to ask us questions at any point tonight throughout this session. You can hit the interact button, type in your question, or we might prompt you to send us some responses. We might ask you some questions. So if you hit the interact button, type in your question or your response, and then send it to us, we'll be able to see that, read it, reply to you either throughout the session, or we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end as well. So before I hand it over to Dr. Weber, just want to give you some information about what the Signature Scholarship Competition is. So who can enter the competition? This is for first-time, first-year residential college students who are entering in our fall of 2022 class. So if you are going to be graduating this year, you're going to be a senior, hoping to start this coming fall, so in 2022, you can enter, and we encourage you to do so. So why should you do that? To enter, you are competing for scholarship awards that are ranging anywhere from $500 to full tuition, and it costs you nothing to apply. It's really just taking up some time and your opportunity to reflect on a wonderful question that we have for you, and you could get anywhere up to full tuition. So how to enter? You would submit your response to our short essay prompt by Friday, January 7th. You do want to submit that by 11:50 p.m. And then next steps, we read your essays and we invite semifinalists to participate in a competition, which will be held here on campus on February 19th in 2022. We do require that students to attend the competition to be considered for the awards. So if your essay moves into the semifinals, you'll come and compete in a day-long competition. It's a really fun opportunity, really fun day to be here on campus. And then finalists are selected and notified of their scholarship. So let's talk a little bit about what you're going to write about. So every year, Bay Path University picks a theme. And this year, our theme is Reimagine Possibility. So in no more than 750 words, we want you to tell us what this theme really means to you. What is it that you imagine for your future? What are your hopes and your dreams? And what do you need to reach those ultimate goals? Maybe it's a vision of change that you're embracing for a better world for all, or one that will be what's your role within that. We are asking you to reimagine possibilities that have no boundaries. And this essay is really your opportunity to explore the extraordinary. So now Dr. Weber is going to talk a little bit about how to structure an essay, and we'll let her take it away. So thanks so much, Dr. Weber.
All right, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for taking time to listen to this webinar. And I hope that you can take at least one thing away from it to help you feel more confident with writing this essay and moving on to that next level of the semifinals. So I just hope I can help in any way I can. All right, so the first thing to think about when you look at an essay prompt of any kind is to break it down so that you make sure you address everything that prompt is trying to get you to address. And so the first thing to look at is how long does it need to be? So in this case, it's 750 words or less. So that's about a page and a half single spaced or 2.5 pages double spaced. So you have an idea about how long you have to work with. And that's not enough time to write a mini autobiography of yourself. So sometimes the best thing to do is to have a brief but compelling snapshot of an important moment in your life. And I'll come back to that in a little bit too. And it also needs to be a reflection that shows personal growth and your ability to think critically. So when you share that snapshot of that moment in your life, you also want to talk about how you feel looking back at it now to show that growth. And that also shows the reader that you're able to step away from that moment and see it through a different lens now that you've grown from it, because everything that happens to us, we learn from it in some way. And the scholarship essay is all about that and showing your ability to think critically of the things that have happened to you. You want to make sure that it happened to you, not your guardians, your parents, or your friends. But if you do want to write about something that they went through, you want to make sure you keep the essay focused on you and your experience. For example, you might want to write about parents getting a divorce that might have affected you deeply. So even though that event didn't particularly happen to you, it affected you in some way, and you can write about your own experience and your own, feelings of that event that happened in your life. All right, so now it's good to break down the prompt. So a big theme for Bay Path is reimagine, and that RE in reimagine is big. It's in capital letters. So one thing I would think about is, how would you define reimagine? What does that word mean to you? What do you envision when you think of that word? Another quote from the prompt is, what is it that you imagine for your future? When you look to your future, where do you see yourself? After you're done with college, what would be your dream? Where would you love to be? What would you love to be doing? And what are your hopes and your dreams? And what do you need to reach your ultimate goal? So some things to think about is, what are those hopes? What are those dreams? And what needs to happen for you to reach those goals? Do you need to have so many degrees? Do you need to have a bachelor degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree? Do you need to be somewhere else? Do you need to have monetary assistance to help reach those goals? Do you need to have a solid group of people who love and support you to reach those goals? So what needs to happen for you to reach those goals? So those are some things that can be swirling around in your head that you might want to jot down just to make note of it. Also, what would you like the future to look like? So it's not just your future, it's the future. And when we think about the future, a lot of times it can be really negative sometimes, but usually we're going to college and getting a degree because we want to make things better. And this question, I feel, can be your chance to show how you can make things better. What would you like the future to be like? And what is your role in that future? How would you like to make this world a better place? And what would that future look like with you as a part of it? Another thing to think about is, what would you change about your life if you had the power to change anything? And don't feel like you need to answer. I feel like with the amount of time you have and a lot of space you have, you could really go for it on either one of these two questions. But for the second one, what would you change about your life if you had the power to change anything? Is a really big one, and it can be really personal. One thing that comes to mind is, I don't know if you're familiar with Roxane Gay. She's a brilliant writer, and she is also an editor, and she's written a lot of books, and she's just a feminist and an activist, and she's just amazing. And she recently solicited essays from the public, asking just anybody to write an essay about what they would do if they had a guaranteed income. And the ones that won and were published with her talked about how their life would be so much different if they had that guaranteed income. If they knew that they'd be okay if they could move out, that they'd have that money. So it seemed like a simple question, but people went in so many different directions with it because your life would be different depending on what you would do with that money. So that's just one example of something that you could change about your life if you had the power to change anything, and what your life would look like if you had that. All right. So next steps would be to make a list of some of your hopes and some of your dreams. So you might just get a piece of paper, or you might just pull up a document on your phone or on your computer and just make a list. What are some things that you dream? And they don't have to be like huge dreams. It can just be something small, and it is not really small. It is a big deal, to live by yourself one day, or to own a pet, or to move out of the house, or to get married or have kids. And it can also be tied to what you'd like to be as far as that goes, what kind of dreams or hopes you might have about a future career. Do you want to be a medical doctor? Do you want to be a psychiatrist? I have students who want to be child psychiatrists because they see how mental health has been impacted by the pandemic, especially for people of color, and they want to help people, and they want to represent that part of the community that usually isn't seen in healthcare, and they want to help them that way. So it can be tied to a future career. It can be tied to just your life, just a list, like all kinds of things. It can be small dreams, big dreams, and which ones do you feel comfortable sharing? And if you want to, you can put in the chat, what are some of your hopes and dreams? And the reason why I say comfortable sharing is because you're going to probably choose one of these to write your essay on. And that means you're going to need to share it with people. People are going to read it. And if you make it to the next stage of the semifinals, you're definitely going to have to, read it. And I know writing is a very personal and scary thing sometimes. And to be a writer is to be courageous, to put anything down, even if it's just a research paper, can be nerve-wracking. But to write about yourself and to write about something really personal is very brave and very hard to do. So you want to make sure that it is something that you feel comfortable sharing.
That's great, Dr. Weber. And I'll just put in a plug here for anybody who does want to share. This could be a good interactive moment for you to type in. Now, this is a little bit easier because it's non-committal, and we won't be sharing these, but it could be a good practice session for when you are making your list for your actual essay. So we'd love to hear some of your hopes and dreams. Go ahead and type those in. And if you have questions, you can also send them our way too through the interact button.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be perfect. If you feel comfortable, definitely do that. All right. So the next step to do is, once you've made a list of those dreams, I would pick one of them and list it at the top of a document. And then just free write on that topic. Now, if you've never free written before, basically you just set a timer. I said 5 minutes here. And that doesn't seem like a long time, but when you start free writing, it might seem like forever. So you might start off with just a minute. And basically free writing is you just write without stopping on that topic for that amount of time. And just whatever pops into your head, just get it out. Don't worry about editing yourself. Don't worry about grammar or anything like that. Just getting it out, because that's one of the hardest parts about writing, is getting what's in your head down onto the page or onto the screen. So that's what free writing does, is it helps to unlock that the best that you can, to kind of get some of that out onto the page. So as you write, one thing to think about is to tie in feelings with the dream, and that will keep you grounded, especially if you end up writing about something really personal. So how did this dream become a goal for you? And is there a event or a moment in your life that you realized this is what I want to do? Or made you think, what if things were different? And usually these are the events that you can write your essay on because it led to that dream or it led to you having that hope. So then you start thinking about, well, what was that moment like? And how did you feel before it happened, during, and after? And noting those feelings will also show critical thinking and growth too. Because a lot of times we look back on these moments in our lives and you're like, oh, what was I thinking? Or why did I date that person for so long? Or I know we all have those moments. But in the moment, we're like, I felt like I loved this person, or I felt safe with this person in the moment. But looking back, I realize now that wasn't a good relationship for me. Um, so it's always just like tying in your feelings before, during, and after that can help ground you emotionally, but also show critical thinking skills too in the essay. And then making sure that you tie that dream to the event. So, how did that event inspire you? Did it show you that, there needs to be more representation in mental health care? Maybe you yourself went through something in the mental health care or in the healthcare system and you weren't believed, or you weren't treated the way that you thought you should have been treated, and it revealed to you like how things are broken in some way, and it inspired you to be someone that can heal that brokenness. So, and to push and break those barriers. So usually we can always tie some of our hopes or our dreams to something that happened to us that made us realize this isn't right, or made us realize this made me feel really good. This is something I want to do for the rest of my life. Maybe you want to help people for the rest of your life. Maybe you want to help animals for the rest of your life. So usually our hopes and dreams are tied to some event. And this is where you can get to the real heart of your essay, is writing about that event. And when you talk about your feelings, it really helps show like I said, the critical thinking, but also keeps you grounded, especially if it's a really personal issue.
Dr. Weber, we definitely have some helpers on in our session tonight. We have some really great hopes and dreams, and I'm so excited for all of these to come true for you all. So I'd love to share some of them.
Yes, please.
Excellent. We have one individual on tonight that would like to eventually get their PhD in clinical psychology.
Nice.
You'll get there.
Awesome.
We have another participant who would like to become a GAL or a GAL. I'm not entirely sure, but it's basically a lawyer for underage children who are being neglected and abused. It's a wonderful goal. So important. Yeah. We have someone else who hopes to make a positive impact on the places where they have visited or where they have been. We have another who would like to become a forensic psychologist, and another who shares, I just would like to give a voice to others.
Wow, this is awesome.
Great hopes and dreams. Keep sharing.
I know, right? These are great. These are wonderful. It seems like there's a common theme of, being a voice for the voiceless and leaving a place better than it was when you got there. Like, that's awesome. And a lot of times these come from really like emotional places for us, where maybe at one point you felt like you didn't have a voice and you knew how awful that felt. And you were like, this isn't going to happen anymore. I'm going to try to make it so this doesn't happen to other people. So that's where the heart of it is. Or maybe you saw that happen to friends or family and you're like, that's not right. I'm going to change this. That's what I'm going to do. So these are wonderful, wonderful dreams and hopes. All right. Yes, keep sharing them too. If you start to feel more comfortable, go for it. All right. So once you've done your free write and you kind of thought about that event, the next thing is to think about how to shape it. So you want to start thinking about your beginning and your middle and your end. So as you're working about how you're going to introduce it, and I'll give you some tips on how to do the introduction, and it might help too to just skip that introduction and go right to the heart of it, because a lot of times we don't know how to introduce something that we haven't even written yet, which, makes sense, right? But we always want to write that introduction first because we want to do it in the order of the paper. But it's hard to write an introduction for something we haven't quite written yet. Like, how do you introduce someone you haven't even met before? So I always think of it like that. So you might want to start with just writing about the event. So as you're working with that event that led to you having that hope or your dream, how you're going to reimagine the future and your role in that, you want to try to use details as much as you can. I don't know if you've read this before on papers, but sometimes teachers will write show, don't tell. And a lot of times we don't know what that means. Like, what does that mean? Show, don't tell. So basically it means, using more details. And some ways that you can do that is to use more senses than you normally might think of. Usually when we write, we talk about sight, like the things we see or the things we hear. But then we forget about all the other senses too. Like, what does something feel like when we touch it? Or in some cases, what does something taste like? So think about what different more senses that you can throw into something as you're describing it, so that your reader can really be in that moment with you. And as we're talking about the moment too, it can be a small moment. It doesn't have to be like this big moment in your life that changed everything. Sometimes the moments that change us the most are the ones that are the smallest. And they're the ones that only you've experienced and, that are uniquely yours. So don't feel like, well, you might feel like, well, I haven't really done anything really big or important. Like this huge event didn't happen. But just because it's not like considered a big event doesn't mean it's any less powerful for you. So just keep that in mind too. Think about metaphors and similes, different ways that you can describe something or compare it to something else is a great way to use more description and contrasting it so that your reader knows that it's like this, but it's not really like that. So I give an example, like sometimes we'll say something like, I was scared, but how I react when I'm scared might be different than how you react when you're scared. So for me, I would say my hands were sweaty and my heart beat so fast, I thought it would burst out of my chest. So that's my reaction when I'm scared, but someone else's reaction might be their hands might get cold or they might get really still. It just depends on everybody's personal reaction to things, which is why description is so important. I also like to use the it was a beautiful day thing as a description, because for me, when I think of a beautiful day, I think of like 45, 50 degrees, overcast, cool. And other people might think, no, 75 and sunny, that's a beautiful day. But if I just say it's a beautiful day and keep going, my reader is going to think one thing and I'm going to be on a whole different page. So that's another reason why you want to be descriptive, is so that your reader's like right there with you and they know exactly what you're going through, at least as much as they can. And remember, feelings woven throughout, how you felt before, how you felt during, and looking back, how you might feel. All right. So once you get a good solid, middle of that paper done, one thing to think about is how you might introduce it. So we don't have too many words to work with, so you don't want to spend too much time on the introduction if you don't have to. So I gave you a couple of templates here at the bottom where you can fill an X with something. I know some people love templates and some people hate them. It might be a good way to start it and then go back and change it to make it more you. So, for example, when I woke up that day, I had no idea that I would end the day fearing the color orange for the rest of my life. So, as a reader, I'm going to be like, what? What is this about? So, I'm hooked. I want to know what is up with orange. Another way you could start is when people look at me, they tend to think X, but they would be wrong. Or I used to think this, but then this happened. So those are just a couple of examples of how you might start off the paper. But, it depends on what the topic is and what you want to reveal and not reveal to your reader right away. But those are some like quick ways that you can really get the reader interested and like a kind of get some mystery going on there. And then when you do your conclusion, you want to make sure you kind of wrap things up. You want to, make sure you let your reader know that this is basically, or as you can see, my dreams are tied to this and this is why. And I would love to come to Bay Path and help take that next step into my dream or something like that. So you're kind of like wrapping up and summarizing what you talked about really briefly and maybe any last thoughts that you'd like that reader to take away with them. All right, so once you have a good draft, you'll want to do some edits and some revision before you hand it in. Some of this you can do on your own, like basic edits. You can reread it. One thing I like to do is read a paper out loud. You'll start to catch things you didn't notice before when you read something out loud. Like you'll notice when you might have put too many words in, like you might have repeated yourself somewhere. And usually we repeat ourselves when we're trying to make a certain length and we're running out of things to say. So if you find yourself like thinking you need to put more in, look at places where you can be more descriptive. But you'll want to have someone you trust to read your essay. Because remember, like I said before, writing is a vulnerable act. It's really courageous to put anything, like to write anything, but to write about yourself and something personal, like your hopes and dreams. That's really brave and that's really hard to do. So you'll want to share it with someone that you trust. The reader should be able to tell you what the lesson learned was and why. They should be able to read your paper and understand what your hopes and dreams are and what you hope for the future. If that's not clear, then you'll need to think of ways that you can make it clearer. Sometimes it might just be a sentence that says, because this happened to me, I want to make things better for other people like me. And to do that, I know I need to do this. Again, you might need to add more details, be more descriptive. And just remember that writing is a process. It's something that nobody ever gets done perfect that first go around. And a lot of published authors will tell you if they had a chance, they would revise things, have things that they publish. They don't, like, you're never really done. Even when you like upload it, you're still like thinking of all the things you could have done differently. So just be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and just know that it's a process. And if you find like you have too many words, you can do a word search for words like and or I am to cut or shorten. And I found that Grammarly.com is really great for basic writing corrections, and it's free, which is the best part. So that's why you can get rid of like extra words you don't really need. All right. So that's what I have for everyone. Is there any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Weber. That was such a beautiful way to, I think, help our listeners really think about how to approach writing an essay in a way that is self-reflective and that it is a courageous act to write about yourself. And I think it's really nice to validate that for everybody. So just thank you so much for your thoughtfulness and your insight there. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone else too. So we will take any questions. We have some time to take some questions here. You can type them in, hit the interact button, type in your questions. We'll read those and respond to you. But in the meantime, if you have not submitted your essay and you are looking to start this tonight, because this was so inspiring and it's a perfect Monday night prompt to start just writing down your ideas or free writing, and you can start it tonight and come back to it tomorrow. If you have a smartphone, you can just open up your camera and scroll over the QR code that we have on the screen here. That will bring you to the link to be able to learn more about the essay, and that's where you can submit your essay. And if after tonight you have any questions, you can absolutely reach out to us. You can reach out to Dr. Weber. You can reach out to us.
I got my email right there.
Perfect. All right, and one of our questions is, when is the essay due? And the essay is due on January 7th at 11:50 p.m. So you have just about a month, which is perfect. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have another question. What does the competition in February consist of? So the competition in February will be a day long where you are going to be interacting and working with other faculty here at BayPath in interactive workshops. You'll be competing throughout the day, and at the end of the day, we'll have essentially reviewed your work in the workshops. There are usually 6 to 7 different topics. And once the day is done, we'll be able to review that. We make our final decisions, and we let you know pretty soon afterwards where you've placed and if you have been awarded a scholarship. It's a really great chance to reflect on your experiences. It's a really fun way to meet other accepted students and bond with them, meet some faculty. Our admissions folks will be there too. So it's a really fun day, no matter where you end up at the other side of it, but it is a really nice opportunity, and we hope that you participate in the essay. All right. And I know that sometimes students are intimidated by that thought. To write an essay is a very personal thing that you can do in the comfort and safety of your room or your home or your classroom. And so sometimes people feel a little intimidated by that competition piece, but students really end up enjoying it. And so I think that's another way to think of, how you can be brave and how you can really push yourself to reach some of these goals by participating in an event like this. So we're very excited for you all. All right. The other question is, the essay title included in the 750 words? I will say no. I will not. I will not count the essay title as part of the actual essay itself. So you've got 750 more words after you write that title. It's a good question.
Good question. Yeah. Because you never know. It's good to ask.
Yes. All right. Another great question is, who should read my essay once I'm done with it? Dr. Weber, do you want to respond to that?
Yes. A lot of times you want someone that you trust. If you have a friend read it, just be careful, because sometimes friends will say everything's perfect because they're your friend, and we don't really see any kind of, we might think of any kind of feedback as negative, when really you really want some constructive feedback. You really want them to say maybe you could do this a little better, you could do that a little better. So if you do have a friend read it, just make sure you let them know that you want them to ask questions. You want them to, push back a little if something doesn't make any sense. You might even ask, if you have a good relationship with your English teacher, you could ask your English teacher if they would read it for you. Or you could ask a guardian or a parent if they're interested in reading, if you feel comfortable sharing it with them. I would definitely pick someone that you trust and someone that will give you some feedback instead of just saying everything's perfect, which we know is never true, even though we want to believe it's true. So if they do try to pull that on you, say, it's not perfect. What can I do better? And definitely show them the prompt and get any kind of feedback you can from that. And I'll read it too. You can email it to me. That's my email right there, cweber@baypath.edu. I'd be happy to read it if you want some feedback too.
That's wonderful. Thank you for
Yeah.
offering that. That's great. One thing I also wanted to mention is that anybody can apply for the essay, or sorry, can submit their essay, but we do ask that students complete their application so that we can review it. To be able to actually win the scholarship, students do need to be accepted to BayPath. So if you're going to submit your essay, also submit your application and complete your application so we can review it for an admission decision. So you can do those simultaneously. You can do one before the other, but ultimately, in order to be awarded the scholarship, you will need to be an accepted student. So just one important aspect that we like everybody to be able to remember. Excellent. These were really great questions. These were really beautiful, inspiring goals and hopes and dreams. And we are so grateful that you spent some time with us tonight. And we're really looking forward to reading your essays. We're really looking forward to being able to hopefully invite you to the competition and meet you in person. Dr. Weber, any last pieces of advice, any last pieces of wisdom that you'd like to share?
Just good luck and, be kind to yourself and know that writing's a process, and writing about any kind of your hopes and dreams is really brave and courageous. And that's awesome that you're doing this. So, and thank you for listening. I hope it helps.
Yes, and I echo that. Bravo to all of you for sharing some time with us to learn more about this. And thank you so much, Dr. Weber, for your wisdom and your presentation. This was really wonderful.
Oh, we got one more question.
Oh, one more question. I see. How long does it take to receive an answer for admission after the application process? Great question. We try to have applications reviewed within 2 to 3 weeks. So once you have submitted your application, we will review it and have a decision for you. If you have any questions, you can reach out to admissions. You can reach out to me in admissions, or anybody here at just admis@baypath.edu, and we can help you out. All right. So one last reminder, you can use the QR code on the screen to get yourself right to the application, or to the essay page, excuse me. And thank you all again for spending some time with us. Thank you, Dr. Weber. It was wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
And we hope that you all have a wonderful evening. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.